Alright, welcome back. This is arplenoon, also known as Phoenix. We are on the final entry for the Bridge Jumpers story, the Epilogue. If you've managed to get this far, I thank you. That's really awesome. I really appreciate people taking the time to listen to or see my work. Again, if you would like to read this, simply go to archiveofourown.org, search for arplenoon. You can find all my Undertale writings there. Again, this is just a casual reading, so one shot reading. It'll be uploaded as soon as I stop recording. Let's get started. Summary. Eric contemplates the events that have transpired before making a decision for his future. Meanwhile, Dream continues to rest at home with his family as he recovers. Months later, Diva, Pro, Lee, and G go to a haunted maze together. Pro and G encounter Skep, catching up. An additional 2 months, Skep is sent on a special mission where he will find closure. Meanwhile, Air sat quietly, watching the broadcast intently from a park in a peaceful AU. Every detail of Dream's appearance committed to memory, the way he spoke and moved, the bandages and the dark eyes. After a moment, Cambria sat beside him and tugged on his sleeve. He finally took his eyes away from the spy window. "What is it, dear?" Era asked. "Is something wrong?" She sighed. "It's nothing to worry about," he said, hiding his feelings with a smile. "Then come play with me," she signed, before standing and tugging his sleeve more. Era scoffed, but did stand to join her. That evening, after Cambria was tucked in for bed, Era returned to Undertale and the asteroid where him and his dear friend would meet. It was time for them to meet again, but as Era feared, after several hours of waiting, Sandy didn't show. A whirlwind of emotions passed through Era's mind. He paced most of the time, thinking of how foolish she'd been. Not once in all his time had he suspected that someone like Dream not only could be deceitful, but would even want to be friends with him. Was his friendship with Sandy all a lie? And if it was, could he bring himself to confront Dream about how he felt? No, it was all too much. He couldn't think about this right now. He didn't want to lose himself to his emotions the way he used to. Taking several deep breaths, Era stopped and cleared his mind. For now, he chose to believe Dream only had the best intentions. Grabbing out his phone, he texted PJ, deciding to put his attention elsewhere. "How is everyone doing?" "We're doing all right. How about you?" PJ texted back. "Fine. Kinda bored. You and Gradient want to hang out?" There was a long pause. Maybe it was too soon to ask this, after all. He still hadn't even exchanged a word with his oldest son. "We'd love that. Where do you want to meet?" came PJ's reply. Eric couldn't help but smile. Rest refused to grace Dream. Not only was it taking longer for his deep wounds to heal, but his mind plagued with hazy recollections of his actions while under Nightmare's power. Dream couldn't forgive himself for trusting Nightmare. For all his life, he believed that everyone deserved a second chance, and now his feelings of such were being thrown into question. Even as night fell, Dream tossed and turned at his bed. Eventually he'd give up, requesting tea and pacing the balcony of his room. Even in the storm of guilt, his mind requested escape. He longed dearly to eat one of the dark fruits and rush off to accompany Era once again. But no, Era would soon find out who he truly was. He saw his wings, and the wounds would be unmistakable. Dream lacked the energy or grace to explain himself to his dear friend. If only he'd explained himself earlier rather than waiting for circumstances to reveal his identity. He'd only fall asleep around the break of dawn. The servants would let him be until Pallet arrived to visit. The young skeleton would crouch by the bed, waiting quietly as his father slept, eventually pulling out a sketchbook and crayons to occupy himself as he waited. When Dream finally stirred, he opened his eyes. "Pallet, dear, when did you get in here?" About 45 minutes, I think." The boy tilted his head. "You should have woke me," Dream said through a yawn. "It's okay. I know that you're tired and you're hurt. I don't mind waiting." Sitting up, he embraced Pallet. A shaken breath, tears fell from his eyes. "Oh, no, Dad, don't be sad." Pallet grabbed his scarf to try to dry Dream's tears. "It's all right. I'm just happy you and your sister are safe." Pallet smiled a little and nodded. "Yeah, everyone's okay. Don't let those mean reporters get to you. It wasn't your fault." But it was. This was something Dream wasn't prepared to wash his hands of. However, he wasn't going to object to his son's encouragement, patting his cheek gently. "It's my responsibility. You'll understand one day." Pallet sighed. "Okay. Want to see my sketchbook? Ink got us all new crayons, and Paper Jam showed me how to draw a cow." Dream gladly looked through the book with Pallet. A knock came to the door before Undying entered. "My lord, there's something you need to see." "What is it?" said Dream, unsure what needed his attention this moment. "It's Princess Luck. She's in the grove and—" Perhaps it was the trauma of everything that had happened. Before Undying could finish her words, Dream bolted from his bed, wings carrying him swiftly out the window. His fear got the better of him. "Dad! Dad, wait!" Pallet called, rushing to catch up down the stairs. Quickly, Dream became lightheaded and dizzy. He descended down to the grove where he saw Luck sitting up in the tree, knocking down the dark fruit. "Daddy!" she giggled cheerfully. "Baby girl, what are you doing? What's wrong?" he asked, stumbling as he ran to her. The guards called to him and came to his side. "Daddy, look what I could do, see?" she said. Reaching out her hand, she held it over the spot where she'd knocked down a dark fruit. There, a little violet blossom sprouted into being. The Fey Lord blinked, a hand to his mouth. His mind flashed into the past, remembering his days where he was a child with nightmare. Those blissful days before there were too many troubles in the world. Lux had been blessed as a guardian of the tree. He remained in awe as Lux crawled down into his arms. "Daddy, I can do what you do with the yellow ones." "Yes, you can. I'm so proud of you, Lux," he cried, embracing her tightly. As Dream knelt, his legs growing weak, Pallet ran up and hugged both of them too. Though his wounds ached, Dream's heart felt full. Despite everything, he had so many blessings to be grateful for. His children were the second chance. "A haunted maze in the woods?" said Prodigal, tilting his brow at his sister. The both of them had just returned to the apartment with groceries. "The tickets don't look too expensive. It's something we could all do together," said Diva, as she'd pulled a flyer from their mailbox. Several months had passed since the attack on the OT and the return of Ink. Though things remained tense politically, normal life for their small family had resumed, granted with 2 additional members. I don't know. Is it going to be accessible for G?" said Pro, as Diva tucked the mail under her arm, picking up her share of groceries. He's gotten a lot better walking on crutches. Oh, come on, Pro. We all need to do something together. You know, like actual families do." Prodigal followed Diva as she skipped to the elevator. "Assuming by family you're including Lee?" "Of course. He's my best friend. Come on, I know you like him too. He's taken good care of us, especially G. Cooking, cleaning, and he's been earning his own share." "A friend isn't family. That's why it's called friends and family." "What about G? How do boyfriends count? Friends or family?" Pro shrugged. "You could just call it a double date." Diva blushed madly and huffed. "We're just friends." The taller skeleton grinned with a hum and nodded. "You're so cruel." Diva groaned and elbowed him, but Pro could tell she wasn't that broken up by his teasing. Since Lee arrived, the 4 of them hadn't eaten out once. They could practically find their way to the apartment by smell alone. Lee's cooking attracted the attention of their neighbors. Eventually, the whole building began asking the skeleton for samples and recipes. He really should start a restaurant, all of them thought, except that none of them really had much money. Entering the apartment, they found Lee hard at work on a stew and fried vegetables. Ji sat at the table, his usual spot, sipping tea with a poetry book in his journal, Spooky purring in his lap. Crutches propped on the wall beside him. Though the yellow flowers were gone, the cracks in his skull and several parts of his bones remained filled with wood. We got everything on the list except black salt. The clerk said he'd never heard of it, said Diva, setting the groceries on the counter. That's fine. Just might have to order it online. Thanks for getting it all, said Lee, eyelids shifting again from orange to white. Prodigal set down his bags before sitting with Ji and held his hand. They exchanged smiles, both preferring the silent communication. Ji, look at this! A haunted maze, said Diva, handing him the flyer. I think we should go, the four of us. Looks pretty spooky. Ji hummed, rubbing his chin as he looked at the ad. He spoke in sign, and Prodigal translated, which was per usual. Says he wouldn't mind, but I think you should still call the company and make sure it's accessible. Yes, Dr. Prodigal, I'll call them right now, Diva huffed, taking back the flyer as she went to the phone. Ji chuckled and Pro sighed. In 2 weeks' time, the four of them were in a taxi, heading out to the seasonal event. The setting sun made Pro nervous, worried if Ji would be able to manage the dark. I'm going to take a sip of water. Ji assured him that it should be fine, though he might need to take his time, and the organizers promised the ease of the path. Once they arrived and presented their tickets, each pair were given an electronic lantern and a map. Follow the yellow flags and have fun, said the Asriel at the starting booth. Should we go on ahead or follow behind you? Said Diva, looking at Pro. Go ahead. We know you two want your privacy, said Prodigal with a wink. Diva pouted. Lee tilted his brow before Diva gently pulled him away to the start of the path. You tease her so. Ji signed. Gotta find some way to keep Lee cooking for us, Pro signed back. Agreed. Both of them shared a chuckle. Soon they started through the forest, jack-o'-lanterns lighting the way. Different scenes had been decorated throughout, telling the story of someone who lost their way before encountering ghosts and ghouls. Actors hid throughout the woods to scare them and elaborate more on the story. Along the way, Prodigal stopped, spying the light of a campfire in the distance off the path. I wonder what that is, said Prodigal. She stopped as well, not sure. Maybe it's a resting spot for the actors. Maybe. I want to see. Might be fun to get the jump on them instead, Pro signed with a smirk and started off the path. A grunt escaped Ji, but a glance back saw him shrug, and he followed carefully along through the rough. With Ji taking his time to navigate the dark, they weren't exactly going to get the jump on whoever it was who started the campfire. But as they got closer, an old sentry station came into view, as well as a small RV. In the light of the fire, a papyrus stood up. Prodigal recognized him as Skep. Who's there? He said. Skep? What are you doing out here? Said Prodigal, stepping into the clearing, but turning back to assist Ji. Wait, this looks like someone actually lives here. The old skeleton's shoulders stiffened. Someone used to live here, but he passed away some months ago. Someone? Who? Said Pro, just then noticing the damaged black book in Skep's hand. The sands called Malady. You found it? And you kept it? Didn't the witness say it should be destroyed? Skep hung his head, ashamed as he glanced at the fire, then the book in his hand. I hadn't finished reading it. Well, I had, but not as thoroughly as I wanted. I kept it to feel like he was still here. He opened the book, looking through the pages one last time. I thought maybe if I looked hard enough, I'd find him, the real him, somewhere within these pages, or some clue as to where he'd gone. But my heart only sinks more, knowing what he was going through. The witness was right. This knowledge is too dangerous. Sitting back down, Skep tossed the book into the fire. Prodigal and Ji exchanged glances before Ji expressed his concern. Are you going to be all right? Pro asked for the both of them. Skep nodded, watching to be sure the pages burned completely. From now on my focus will be on the living, those who can still use my help. Prodigal, stay out of trouble, and G, you have my gratitude. She gave a solemn nod before the both of them decided it was best to give Skep his space and return to the path. Almost 2 months passed. Life continued for Skep as it had since he had been rescued by the core team all those years ago. The holidays hit different for him than they used to. When he still had his world and his brother, he looked forward to celebrating. But now they just happened and passed, and would be back around the next year. The best thing he could do for anyone was continue working, protecting and helping people as an emergency responder so others could enjoy the days with the family they still had. Things changed when he met Melody, the lone Sans who had no one, just like him, and they'd kept each other company. Skep was alone again. Though he still looked to Core as a good friend, they had their own family. As for Skep, he wasn't sure if he was ready to take that step, or if he ever would be. Boss says it's a special delivery, said Color to him, at their newly built headquarters. He handed Skep a long list of children's names corresponding to a list of toys. It says it's from an AU that isn't safely connected to our multiverse. Frisk says you're the only one who should go for the delivery. Why such a dangerous mission for toys? Skep said, skeptical. Color gave a lazy shrug. No idea. They said the mission shouldn't be dangerous, but there's a good reason only you should go. But you mustn't linger or bring back anything that isn't on the list. Okay, still doesn't answer my question, but I can do this rather quickly. Moments later, after Skep had suited up, he headed through the portal into a wintry forest. For a moment he thought he might have gone into the wrong place, but a quick turn around revealed a clearing where a large cabin stood. 2 human children were playing, building snowmen, a pair of twin girls. Both stopped, staring at the armored skeleton, before dropping the snow in their hands and running into the cabin. Their little feet pattered against the wood stairs before they pushed inside. Their voices echoed. Feeling his soul suddenly tense in anxiety, he took a breath and headed up to knock on the cabin door. To his surprise, a shorter skeleton answered, not a Sans or a Papyrus, but undeniably a skeleton monster. "Oh, hello there," he said. "Oh, hello, sir. I was told you were the toy maker," said Skep as it dawned on him who this was and why Frisk had sent him. The skeleton wore a leather apron with a colorful red and green cardigan, the sleeves rolled up. The toy maker smiled. Yes, I was told to expect a fellow skeleton. You're here for the delivery for the OT, right? Come on in." Waving for Skep to follow, the skeleton returned to the warm interior. Skep closed the door behind him and looked about the roomless home. A large inviting fireplace stood center against the far wall, and though there was a kitchen, dinner table, and 3 beds, the space had primarily been devoted to shelves filled with colorful handcrafted toys. The 2 twin girls stood over by a rocking horse, pretending to play, but watching Skep warily. "Don't worry, children, he's a customer," the skeleton chuckled before looking to Skep. "I'm almost finished with the last item. Can I get you something while you wait?" "Oh, no, I'm fine." How are you all here alone? Are you all here alone? I beg your pardon, but how does a skeleton end up the care with human children? It's a long story," he said, turning back to a table where tools piled up. Picking up a paintbrush and a doll, he painted on rosy cheeks. "I used to be a wanderer. I found them hiding together in the woods. Their parents had been taken by wolves. Can't say it's been easy, but the both of them have been the joy of my life. I wouldn't change it for the world." He packed the doll in a colorful box before sealing it with a ribbon, all while Skep watched in awe. He clutched his fists, telling himself not to cry. "Melody, you really made it. "It's so good to see you," he muttered. "Hmm? What was that?" said the toy maker, looking back. "Oh, it's nothing. I'm glad to see your life and family are well." Soon enough, the toy maker showed Skep to the cart of toys in their barn. Together they checked the list while the twins spied from the door. Certain they had everything, it was time to depart. Though Skep knew he'd never see his brother again, he felt grateful for this last chance. He couldn't stop the tears, waving goodbye to the toy maker and the hopeful children at his side.